Okay, so now we have our fancy Chuck Norris joke package in place, and right now it only contains the composer.json file. Now, the next thing we need to do is we need some sort of place where we can actually put our package logic. So the best practice is not to put those things in the root directory, but inside of a source directory. So if we take a look at the packages that I've opened again, so my API doc generator, then you can see it has a source directory that contains all of the package code, and similar, the WebSocket package also has a source directory that contains all of the package libraries and classes. So none of that should live inside of the root directory of your package. So to do this, let's just open our current package in Sublime and take a look at it. So what we want is a new directory, which we call source. And in here we have all the different classes. So for the joke package, let's just create a new class and call it joke factory. And save this file as jokefactory.php. Now, one thing that you have to keep in mind when you start creating your own packages is that you need to namespace your packages. So if you, for example, would require some other dependency that also has a class named joke factory, these two classes would create a conflict, as you could not load both of these classes in the application. So for this, PHP for a long time now has support for namespaces, and namespaces basically just group all the classes in different, well, namespaces. So a best practice when coming up with namespaces is to make them coupled to your package name. So the vendor and package combination should also reference the namespace that you have. So in my case, it would be namespace, then Empotiot, Chuck Norris jokes. All right. And now every time someone needs to use our joke factory class, they can just import it from this specific namespace. Now, the next thing we need to do is we need to actually tell Composer that inside this source directory, we have classes that belong to this namespace. I'll tell you why in a minute. So you can do this by defining the autoloading behavior in your composer.json file. So if I go in here and at the bottom, we add a new key, which is called autoload. And that's an object, and we want to autoload according to the PSR4 recommendation. And what we want is everything within the Empotiot Chuck Norris jokes namespace lives inside the source directory. All right, so what does this actually mean? PSR4 is a standard recommendation from the PHP FIG, which is the PHP framework interop group. And they came up with a lot of standard recommendations to make life easier when you want to consume different packages so that they all share some common logic or common coding standards, autoloading standards, things like this. And one of those standard recommendations is PSR4, which defines the autoloading standard. Okay. So what this means is that Composer now knows that the classes that live inside the source directory are all within the Empotiot Chuck Norris jokes namespace. This also means that if we create a new directory and we would call it jokes, and in here we create a new class joke, save this file, then we define the namespace for this class as jokes, and now Composer automatically knows where this joke class is located. So if someone wants to use this class, since we have defined the PSR4 autoloading, Composer knows that everything inside of this source directory belongs to Empoziod Chuck Norris jokes namespace. And then it just looks up the classes by expanding this namespace and going deeper in the folder structure. So since this is in the jokes namespace, Composer will just look inside of the source for a jokes directory, and then we have the class name as the file name that we'll look up. Okay, so now we have autoloading in place, and we can now use our package within other places. So to show you how you can do this, let's first make a very simple example. So we will just create a new index.php file in here. We'll remove it later on, so this is just for a demonstration purpose. And to actually build the whole autoloading, we can do a composer dump. As you can see, generating autoload files, and now we have a vendor directory with an autoload.php file. So if we require this file, we can now instantiate our joke factory class. So factory equals new joke factory. We have to use the full namespace for this. So we will use this specific namespace for the class. And to try things out, let's just add a new function, hello, and there we'll just echo Chuck Norris joke goes here. Okay. And now in our index.php file, let's do factory hello. And if we want to call this, we can do php index.php to actually execute this file. And we get our Chuck Norris joke. And this is basically what other packages or other projects would do when they require this specific package. So with the correct autoloading in place, we can just use the classes based on the folder structure of your package inside of other places. Now, as I've said, this is not really the best way on how to work on your project, because if you work on a package, then maybe you want to actually add it to for example, a Laravel application or your existing Symfony application or something else, and want to work on the package as you also work on the application. So this index.php approach will not be the best fit for this. And in the next video, I will show you how you can, right now, without publishing the package, use this package in your own application. And then keep developing this package. All right, so let's get rid of the index.php and take a look at this in the next video.